Okay, hi my girls, hope you're well, hope you had a good Easter weekend. I'm just going to quickly talk to you about this task. Some of you had a bit of trouble with it, so I wanted to go through it with you. And nobody did this experiment over the weekend. I'm very upset about it. Anyway, okay, so here we have the experiment. So a grade 8 girl decides to investigate the densities of different liquids and objects. So the first question is, what is the dependent variable? Now, remember, if you think of dependent and independent, the independent is the things we change, and the dependent is what we're going to measure. So the dependent, what are we trying to see? We're trying to see the densities. So your dependent variable will then be the densities. Okay, the relative densities, because they're relative to each other. So what is the independent? It would be the different, you don't have to say different, liquids and objects, because we changed the objects and the liquids and we were trying to see their densities. Okay, which liquids are denser than milk? Okay, is that all? Yeah. Which are denser than milk? So here, all our liquids on this side and the objects on this side. So here is milk. Anything denser would mean that it's underneath. It means that milk is the least dense of these and is floating on top. So we would have maple syrup, corn syrup, and honey would be the most dense. Okay, which is the least dense? The beads or the popcorn kernel? So the beads are here and the popcorn kernels over here. The beads are floating higher up, which means they are less dense. Okay, so that is less dense, the beads. If a pen cap was more dense than the cherry tomato, okay, so here you can clearly see the cherry tomato. Okay, I know they've put it there, but there's it's in the dish soap. Okay, so we know that it's there. So it says there, if the pen cap is more dense. So we are looking below the cherry tomato. But it is less dense than the popcorn kernel. Here's the popcorn kernel. And we are going to look up from that because it is less dense than the popcorn kernel. So I accepted milk and I accepted maple syrup because I think the popcorn kernel was just at the bottom of the maple syrup. So either one of those two I accepted. Which is the most dense liquid? Now again, you must listen to read the question carefully. Here are your liquids. Most dense is honey. Okay, and which is the least dense object? The object's on this side, and the least dense one would be at the top, and so that's your ping pong ball. Okay, right, so it says give two things. The last question was give two things that we can do to make an object less dense. So if you remember, we had density is equal to mass over volume. Okay, and I said that the top is directly proportional. So density is directly proportional to mass, and density is inversely proportional to volume. So what does that mean? The bigger the mass, the bigger the density. Okay, so we wanted less dense. So if we decrease the mass, and over here we have density is inversely proportional to volume. The bigger the volume, the smaller the density. The smaller the volume, the bigger the density. And so we want less dense. So the bigger the volume, remember these are opposites. The bigger the volume, the smaller the density. So if we make that bigger. Okay, so basically we want an increase in mass and a decrease in volume. Okay, so those two things we can do to an object to decrease its density. All right, this is all we're going to do today because you only have half an hour. And I'm a bit concerned that the other class has is going to go get behind because I'm losing their hour on a Monday. Okay, so I want you to make sure that you understand this density. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to, no, when did I see you again? Thursday I'm going to give you, I'm going to finish off the density note before we do expansion, and then you're going to have the final activity to do for that. Okay, all right, so that's all we're going to do for today. Please make sure you understand I'm here for the half an hour. If you're not understanding something, send me a question on Google Classroom. Please, please, please. You must understand this. If you are not understanding this and we get to school and you say, ma'am, I had no idea what was going on, I'm going to be very mad with you. Okay, so please make sure you're engaging with the work, you are watching the videos, you are understanding, you are doing the work. You have to be disciplined yourself because your teachers are not there to discipline you. All right, please, please, please make sure you are working and you are doing it properly. Okay, love you lots.